Also, during the class, there'll be times where I'll provide you with some digital books that I have access to that will save you some money. For one thing, you won't have to buy the books unless you want to, but they'll supplement the materials that we're covering. I use some of this material because, as you'll find, the more you work with GIS, it's so diverse, and there's so many different things you can do with this technology. It's hard to get it all in one book, and so I try to pull material from different places that I think will be helpful to you in your learning, and things that have worked well for me in the past. So things sometimes I'll even uncover something new through my day job, I guess you could say, that might be helpful, and I'll pass that along to you as well. This material, a lot of the material I'll pass on this way will be optional, but there will be some required, and I will make you aware of that, and I will send that digital material to you, so you will have access to it. So don't worry about that. But I'll also occasionally recommend other readings and books and things that you might find of interest, and sometimes just more detail than what we'll go into in the class. Sometimes we don't have time to go into a lot of detail, but I find that students are interested in a certain aspect and want to pursue it a little bit more, so I'll try to pass that on to you, and encourage you to give me feedback if you have questions or are looking for certain material in certain areas within GIS. Our class syllabus is going to be posted also on our Momentum site. We're using a new syllabus this semester because we've got the new books, and so I just want to point out that our syllabus is tentative. Shouldn't change much, if any, but I wanted to make you aware that I might need to change it a little bit as we go through the semester, and as I get a better feel for where you are with your learning and things like that, as well as the materials in the book. Some of the material in these editions of the books I've yet to go through myself, so we'll be going through some of that together, though it looks to be very similar to the previous editions of the book. So I mentioned already about the assignments typically being due on Sundays unless I tell you otherwise. That's the guideline that we go by. What else do we have? Okay, course grading. Everybody's always interested in this. First, let me say that I try to be what's the right word I'm looking for here? I don't necessarily want to just say lenient, but I'm pretty easygoing, I guess you could say. So to me, the most important thing is that you learn the material that we're covering, and that you're getting a good learning experience out of the class. That said, we do have to put grades to things and put numbers to things. So here are the numbers that I came up with, and these are the percentages of the various aspects of the class. We're probably going to have 2 exams. I've been known on occasion to drop the second exam, but I try not to, just because it really helps you more than anything, because you get a lower percentage. In other words, if we just did 1 exam, it would have to be 30% of your grade, whereas if we do 2, I can break that out to 15 and 15. So we'll probably have 2 exams, and then you'll have a major class project. I'll go into more detail on this in a minute. And then that's 35% of your grade. Okay, that's the highest percentage. We will probably have just the 1 big project. Some classes we do 2, but this one we'll probably have 1 because it's a pretty big project. The class assignments that I'll give you from week to week are worth 25% as a whole. So I'll break those up, into percentages depending on how many we do. 10% of your grade is class participation, so I figure it's worth at least 1 letter grade that people participate in the class, and so that's important. It's important to make sure you are on time with things, that you participate in the discussions each week, if there is one. There are some weeks we don't have a discussion, but when we have a discussion, try to participate. You can participate multiple times during the week if you want to. You don't have to wait till the last night and post some comments. You can post some comments on Monday, and if you think of something else to say, then post it again later in the week. To me, it helps, assuming that everybody's reading each other's comments, then we all kind of have a little discussion, at least virtually, that way. So showing up, being active, doing your assignments, and that kind of thing counts towards the participation. Also, working in your groups that we'll talk more about later when you do your major class project is an important part of that participation grade. All the assignments have to be completed to get a grade in the class, so you'll need to do all of the work to get a grade in the class. Like I said, there'll probably be 2 exams. I like to use a mix of formats. I've also been known, especially in the 101 class, to give a lot of hands-on material for my exams. And so there's a chance that probably more with the second exam than the first, but there's a chance we'll have a good bit of hands-on material on one of our exams as well. But I like to use a mix of just your traditional true-false, multiple choice, fill in the blank. Not too hard. My tests are not very hard. As long as you've kept up with the material, you'll be fine. And I'll even give you a test review and give you an actual test that I used in one of the previous semesters. So that helps a lot. So you'll have some study material to go with, because we cover a lot of material in this class, and not all of it is on the exams. And so I don't think it's fair to make everybody panic that they have to know every bit of the material inside and out that we cover. And so I'll cover a lot of things because I think it's important that you get a broad exposure to things. But then we'll have some set of that will focus on the tests, and I'll try to make clear what that will be, and giving the test reviews is a good way to help with that. The exams, like I say, from previous years may be posted on the website. I've done that traditionally, and I don't see any reason to not do that this time. The major class project, this is the fun part. I enjoy this more than anything, and usually the students do as well. And we try to put a class project in most of our classes outside of the 101 class, which is busy enough just doing the work out of the textbooks and stuff. Outside of that, we try to have a class project. Now, some of our classes we have a bigger project than others. Like I said, some of the classes will have a couple projects. This is one of the bigger ones. You'll have one project here, and we'll work on it as a team. Okay, the project is going to be due at the end of the semester, which is the end of the semester is the 30th, I think, on a Monday, and I'd like for you to have your projects turned in by that Friday on the 27th, and they need to be turned in before 4 p.m. because the office tends to close around 4 p.m. at Oak Ridge. And when I give you the assignment, I'll give you all the particulars about where to send it. If you can deliver it in person, that's great, but a lot of you are far away and can't do that, so you'll need to mail it, and you'll need to mail it in time that it is received by the 27th. So you might have to get it done a little bit early just to be safe that it gets there on time. It's real critical that they get turned in on time because it's a big part of your grade, and the grades are due the following Friday, so that gives me only a week to grade all of this, and it's a lot of work, and with 19 people it's going to really be a lot of work this time. So make sure to get them turned in on time, the 27th. The projects, you'll use a combination of different ArcGIS, of course, will be the biggest component probably, but you'll also likely use various GIS utilities that you either already know about or that you'll learn during the semester. You'll use Microsoft PowerPoint for your presentation, and there might be other software that you need to use for some reason or another. You might use Microsoft Word for the reporting component of it. What the project is it's typically what I do, and I've got a couple weeks to decide for sure, but I'm leaning strongly towards continuing it this time, especially based on what I'm seeing about people's introductions and stuff for their interests. I typically do some type of an environmental analysis. In the past, we've done a wilderness analysis, where we've looked at wilderness areas, but I broadened it a little bit last year and might continue that this year based on your feedback as well, into more of an environmental assessment, because in the environmental assessments you get to use a lot of the components that we're doing in the database area. So it lends itself very well to using the skills that you're learning to do an environmental assessment. And I'll give you a lot more detail about it when I give out the assignments, which will probably be about the third week of the class, typically the third or fourth week. I like to do it by the 3rd if I can, but we'll see how it goes and where everybody is and that kind of thing. That gives you plenty of time to work on it. Okay, and we'll work in groups. There'll be groups of probably 3, though we've got a big class this time, so I might put 4 in a group. It just depends. I'll look at that and see how many people are taking the class after the 3rd week or so, and we'll decide for sure. But 3 or 4 people. And it's interesting, you might say, well, how do we work in a group in an online class? But that's part of the challenge. Part of your grade on this assignment is basically teamwork and how well you work together. And doing it in an online environment is particularly unique. And so we'll talk a lot more about that. But it works, and as long as everybody participates, it works. We do need a team leader, though, so just a heads up to be thinking if you would like to be a team leader. The team leader kind of coordinates and makes sure everybody is getting communicated with each other and they're participating, and they're sort of a point of contact for me if I have a quick question about how things are going and things like that. And typically what I'll do, I like to use for the team leaders, if we can get people to volunteer that have had the classes last fall, that would be great. So at some point I'll ask you, who would like to be a team leader, and please don't be shy about that. It's not particularly hard, and it is a very useful skill, I think, and I think you'll get a good learning experience out of it to do that. But if you've had the classes last fall, those are the ones I'm especially going to be looking towards to be team leaders, because you'll have more background in GIS than the others, and so you'll be able to help more. This should be a really interesting project. I will share with you some of the PowerPoints that came out of the past projects to give you an idea kind of what people have done in the past. But again, there'll be a lot more about this in the weeks to come, but just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea about what's involved here with the class project. Now I'd like to spend a few minutes going over some of the websites that you'll see. This is the homepage of the Roan State's main homepage. Now, we won't use this much, but I wanted to point it out to you because there's a couple things that you might find very useful on this page, and if you haven't found it already, let me show you one of them, which is where to get to the information about the class textbooks. It's kind of a new thing that Roan State's now giving you a direct link, and it helps the online students a lot. But if you go to the main page at the www.roanstate.edu and then go under Student Resources, you have a pop-up there, and you can go down to the schedule of classes, and there it will take you to, they have 2 different types of lists. One is basically a static version that gets updated every hour, and the other one is a live version that shows you not only how many people are in the class and things like that, but also a link to the textbooks. So if you go to this right hand side one for the live version, follow that link and you can pick the term that you're interested in. So let's go to Spring 2012, submit, and then let's pick the GIS classes off this list here, and we'll just leave it set to all of them for now. There's not that many. And it will bring up a listing of the classes. And if you look on our 110 class, if you look under the title of the class, you'll see textbook information. So if you follow that link, it takes you to a page with the 2 textbooks that we're using. They've got a picture of the one, and it gives you their info. They've got, I guess, some kind of a deal set up where you can order it online, and you can buy it for new or used copies, or you can rent it. And so there's one option for you for buying the textbook for this class. You saw the Amazon pages earlier. I was just using those for reference, but feel free to buy your books wherever you want to. But this is another source, and it's kind of handy for seeing which books being used for the classes when you're doing them online before you get your hands on the syllabus from the instructor. And so you can see the other one, the GIS tutorial 2. And then if we go back, let me go back here to the other page. You can click on the class itself, And, first of all, it shows you the introductory information about the registration dates and so forth. But if you follow the class link, it tells you how many people are in the class. So it's showing 19 in our class, and there's only one spot open. So that's a resource you might use. And then also, let me go back here again. If you go to student resources, you have your academic calendars. And those are very handy. Pick the one for this spring, and you can see the dates of the critical dates throughout the semester. For example, you see when classes begin, the date, Martin Luther King holiday, the spring break, as I mentioned earlier, in March 5th through the 11th, and the Good Friday holiday we were wondering about is April the 6th. Okay, and the last day of classes, Monday the 30th. The exam period is not as relevant to us. We don't typically have exams during the exam period in the GIS classes. We will, depending on your class, sometimes you'll have your last exam for that class somewhere near the last day of classes. But we don't typically use the exam period for our classes because we only meet once a week usually, and usually we don't have like a final exam per se. We'll have one or two or sometimes 3 exams in a semester in a given class, and they're spread out throughout the semester. The grades will be due on May 4th by noon on Friday, and as I understand it, you can now check those online by going to the RadarNet site, which is accessible from, you can see it here from the homepage on the Roane State homepage. So I won't spend a lot more time on the main site for Roane State there. I just wanted to share that information with you. Most of our work is going to be done on the Momentum site. And an important address you want to bookmark is the HTTPS, then the ://elearn.roanestate.edu. Okay, and then I mentioned earlier there's a tutorial here, a welcome tutorial they have. They've got an email address for assistance if you're having any problems. And this is a pretty reliable system. It does go down occasionally, but when it does, they're made aware of it real quickly, and so it's usually not down very long. But you can actually call a number if you need to and speak with somebody in person if you need to. So you might want to print this page out to have it for reference in case the site does go down or whatever, and you'll have the number then that you need to call to get a hold of somebody. The instructors have no control over any of that. We're sort of at the same mercy as you are to the system. So if the system goes down for you, then it's down for us as well. So we're usually not the ones to contact if there's problems with the Momentum system itself. Try to contact these folks because they're the ones that can actually help you. So to log in, you'll want to enter, everybody should have a username that you were assigned when you registered for to be a student at Roane State. And typically that username is used on your email for the first part of your email, and then it's either the @ symbol at roanestate.edu for your Momentum email, or it's at elearn.roanestate.edu within Momentum. But that username, you'll want to enter that to get into the system. And oops, give it just a minute here, and it will log on. As I mentioned before, you'll see typically the classes you're taking this semester, and depending on your setup, you might see some of your previous classes. I'm not sure. I'm logged in as instructor. When you're logged in as student, it might look a little bit different. So my screens might look a little bit different than your screens, but I think you'll see enough of it that it will be close enough that you'll be able to figure it out from this. I just wanted to kind of give you an introduction. It's probably not as good as the one they have prepared out from the main page for you, but at least I can show you our class in particular, how I've got it set up. And since I'm still setting up our current class, I'm going to look at last spring's class because it will be very similar to what we have this spring. So if I go into that, you just click on your class name, and again it takes you to the news page. Okay, and the news page is sort of a quick link to a lot of materials from there. And if I scroll down, well, I guess it's not showing up, but I was going to show you sort of from the beginning. You can see they're sort of reverse chronological order here in the news. So the most latest thing posted is up at the top. and it builds up throughout the semester so that you can scroll down and see the previous material. And if I click this show all, it would show all of the material that was posted. And then you've got a calendar here, and I believe the calendar works. I always rely on what I have posted in the class for dates and so forth, but I believe the way I set it up, a lot of those critical dates would show up in your calendar. So if you clicked on a certain date, you'll see that an assignment was due on a certain date, and they will typically also show up in the events section here. Since we're looking at last year's class, all the dates have expired, so nothing's showing up. But you'll see some information there. But again, always check what I call the weekly class summary, and I'll show you that in a minute, because that will have your dates on a week-to-week basis, and you'll probably want to print those out, put them in a notebook or something like that to have them handy. So you've got your news page, okay, that's where all the announcement gets posted. Each week I'll do a little quick update and a little summary for that week, and mention what, if there were grades and so forth, that where I am on the grading and that kind of thing. And then if you look across the top here, you see also, okay, you can go, if you look on the very top row, okay, you can go back to My Home, which takes you back to that first page when you logged on, and basically your listing of classes and so forth again. Let me go back. Also, when you're on that page, by the way, Roane State, if they have any announcements they want to post and things, they have their own little news section here that they can post stuff as well. So you've got that information on that home page. Again, we're back outside of the site, but just thought about that. And I think you can get to your email from there as well, and it shows your aggregate emails for all of your classes at that level. So let's log back into the class. And here, now we can also go to our email from here, or you can go over to the far right hand side and click on the little email tool here as well. That takes you to your email. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. You have a calendar. Again, this is a summary of what you have down here. And the attendance, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure. I don't use that very much at this level anyway, but they have that button there. These are mainly buttons that Roane State puts on here for you. Okay. It shows how you're logged on, shows the class name here so you know which class you're dealing with. And then these are the buttons that I have set up. And for our class, we have the class home page, which is this page we're at now. You have a content page, a discussions page, a Dropbox, which is where you turn in your assignments and exams and so forth. Not your project, by the way, but everything else. Oops, I accidentally clicked on that. Everything else will go to the Dropbox. And then this class listing page, okay? And you won't see the edit course page. That's for my use, I guess, but you do have the log out button here, and this is how you can get back out of the system to the home page for the momentum page. Okay, they have some quick links. I haven't used these much, but it looks like they've got a dictionary link, links to various things about Roane State and programs and so forth from here on the quick links page. So let's go into a few of these, a few items. I haven't used this, by the way, is the RSS. I may explore that a little bit later, but if I do, I'll tell you about it. But for now, I haven't really used that. You've reached the end of section 2 of this video. Please go to part 3 for the last section of the video.